do you want to start with introductions and then we can go from there?
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself, Miss? And
Okay. Um,
yeah.
well, I'm semi-anonymous on here, although I don't think I'm all that anonymous because here I am. I am on Substack as the therapist who came undone. Uh, I am, in fact, a therapist right here this is my therapy office.
That's a
I
nice office.
Thank you. It is kind of my happy place. I've been a clinical psychologist for 17 years now. I just had to go up to 17 this month. I am a mom of 3 boys. I guess that's kind of how I define myself a little bit. Uh, Married. I newly consider myself a writer. I'm still working on incorporating that as part of my identity. I came to Substack because I had written a memoir about some painful points in my life, and kind of integrating that into who I am now. I came on Substack to build a platform, as many people do, and instead found so much more. And most of that is really connection with other people who are also in the process of sharing themselves and figuring out who they are. And you were one of the early people that I met on Substack. And yeah, and it took a little while before we really connected, but I read your book and I read it chapter by chapter and messaged you between each chapter. And that is probably the first and only experience I've ever had with an author where I really got this, more than inside view, right? The book was an inside view, but then we got to talk about it together. And I think slowly, at some point it felt easier to text. And, now you're a part of my daily rhythm, which was so unexpected. I did not come to the internet really looking for so and I think who knows if we were in the same place, whether we would have connected or not. But I'm really grateful and I'm really happy to be here doing this live with you today.
Likewise, it was nice because you would text me or message me on Substack about a chapter, and I'd be like, "Here are some pictures related to this scene," and yeah, I was like, kind of, it was nice. And I'm Chris. I I'm also like you. I wrote a book and published it about some painful parts of my life. Um, which involved psychological abuse, severe psychological abuse for being neurodivergent. I'm autistic, and the aftermath that came from that. And I, like you, came on Substack to build a platform, albeit a little late. You're doing it the right way, right?
I
Before
have.
the
Oh,
before you're doing before
yes,
the book is
yes,
published. I was doing it as I was publishing it, right? Because I was doing it myself.
yeah.
But and then so I initially started writing a lot about the abuse, everything that happened, and trying to process it. And now I'm kind of looking at it more at a 30,000 foot view, and trying to make fun of it a little bit. And we connect, like, I got to connect with people like you, and you also have become part of my rhythm. I am not a parent, unlike you. Well, that's kind of untrue. I do have a dog. That's kind of like my kid.
She is
Um,
your kid for sure.
yeah, yeah. You probably get annoyed with me sending you all those pictures of Shadow every day. Um, and Shadow's my dog. She'll be 14 next month. Damn.
Wow.
Um, and yeah. So I think that's it for intros. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, and we
Um,
just talked about, I mean, I'm open to whatever comes up, but we had talked about sort of um, one theme that comes up between us all the time is humor. Uh, I mean, it comes up in that we, joke around a lot. Um,
mhm,
we each are very aware of each other's stories, which, as you said, include a lot of pain points. And yet, so much of our connection, which was originally around, I think, a lot of those pain points, has become about humor. And so that was something we had talked about being kind of interesting, how we use humor, um, especially in like and around really dark periods in our life. Um,
mhm. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of an interesting topic because they they kind of seem paradoxical in some sense, navigating dark times in your life and humor. They're like they don't seem to correlate, but
no,
it, it um they often do. I mean, I don't know. What's your experience on how humor manifests itself in your
so
dark periods?
for me, I think it's like a two-sided coin, I guess. Um, Maybe for me personally, it's less of a two-sided coin. I feel like it's mostly a good thing, right? It's how I cope, it's how I connect, it's um, how I smile, even when things are pretty awful. Um, I think I'm trying to think about how much do I share for people who don't know me. Um, that um, I would say the three biggest struggles I've had. One has been that I have had an on and off struggle with anorexia. I'm very happy to say I'm in a good place with it. But
Yay.
yay. But between 16 and 48, which I am now, I had my sort of initial collapse into anorexia. And then I've had three discrete relapses over my adult life. Um, my family also experienced a really traumatic loss. We lost five family members in a plane crash. And I mean, years of continued grief. And after that, few years after that, my oldest son had a mental health crisis, and we ended up sending him to treatment, to residential treatment. So he was out of our house for over a year. So these were all, I'm not fucking around. These were not easy experiences. And when I look back, I've had so many people say, I don't know how you did that, particularly around the plane crash. And my kids I only had two kids at the time, but they were 11 and 9. Um, and I think probably you would concur, and anyone who's lived long enough has had painful parts of their life. Like, I could not have gotten through that without humor. That laughter was medicine. Couldn't always get to it in the thick of it, but it came up throughout. I mean, that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but for me personally, laughter has been a coping mechanism. And frankly, it's better than drinking too much or not eating or, the million other things we do to escape feeling. Um, as a therapist, and I'm going to throw it back to you, but as a therapist, I see humor as a two-sided coin. That sometimes I sit with people and I can feel humor as a defense mechanism that's preventing them from accessing what they need to access to ultimately get better. Um, but sometimes it's also, frankly, just funny and lovely that they can find that part of themselves even when they're struggling. So it feels more, I'm sure it's more nuanced for me personally, but I don't experience it as that. Right. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about you?
Um, I've always been uh, someone who liked to tell jokes.
I knew that.
I know I know you suffer through a lot of my
Too.
dad jokes,
So
and
many eye rolls.
um, it's a lot of people also suffer through my uh, eye rolls or my dad jokes these
Not
days.
the only one.
Oh, uh,
I thought it
should
was,
you only be that lucky? Yeah.
yes.
Um, but I even tried my hand at stand-up comedy once, and did I show
Yes,
you that video?
very early on. You did. And
Yeah,
it was good. It was just as I was first getting to know you.
yeah, and um, that's when I realized I have a lot of stage fright, and that maybe I could tell jokes at a more intimate level rather than getting up on stage and um,
I could think of nothing that would make me want to like crawl into a shell more than getting up on a stage and trying to be funny.
yeah, and that's the thing too about humor. It's not going to land with everybody, and um, uh, and so you're more on the spot with a crowd than you are one on one, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then uh, enter, then I got married, and she didn't like jokes very much, and like neither did her mom. So I kind of like dialed up, at least at home I dialed down the jokes.
That makes me sad.
And I know I was because like come on man, I have a little sign over here. It
Yes.
says that life is too short to be serious. uh so if you can't laugh at yourself, I'll laugh at you.
Yeah.
um
Yeah,
you
you
know yeah. um And then after I got diagnosed with autism, it turned to, well, you're worthless. You don't deserve to live. Why don't you kill yourself? And so after hearing that for about 3 years, it was a little over 3 years. It kind of sucked the life out of me.
Yeah.
So much so that I attempted twice to kill myself, and thankfully I didn't. Thankfully, I'm still here, and I'm well on the road to recovery. But it took me a really long time to laugh again. It From her leaving to me getting help. I spent some time uh, getting help, but it did take me a long time to laugh after that. Um, and it was with it, I remember the day clearly. It was uh, I was in my apartment, uh, not 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 this place. I was living in a small two-bedroom apartment in Plymouth, actually.
Mhm.
Uh, my friend Lauren came to visit me. She's been my best friend for the better part of like 15 years now, and
Mhm.
um, like 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 you, we do talk every day. But she came to visit, and she brought her two chocolate labs,
Mhm.
which was nice for Shadow because Shadow loves her buddy.
Yeah.
um, and she is a riot. She's a hoot. But she said something funny, and it wasn't even that funny. It was something about one of her chocolate labs being too dumb, and that's why it eats socks or something. Like I don't remember quite the joke, but it wasn't that funny, but I laughed hysterically, and
Yeah.
that kind of like scared me. And because I felt like I was betraying part of myself that went through, uh,
Ah,
3 years of psychological abuse, and I was like, am I betraying myself? Um, but that kind of unlocked the door for humor to start coming back.
mm-hmm.
Um, and that's how um, that's how I met Katie, or at least got Katie to talk to me uh, for a long time, uh, because Katie is this young lady right here. She, I was walking one day. I was walking my dog one day by the pool in the apartment complex, and she was there with a friend of mine. And I went to say hi to my friend, and I asked him if I could join them. And Katie said that she was only going to be there for like 10 minutes, and then she was going to skedaddle because she had things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And those 10 minutes turned to 3 hours because I just kept like that joke after that joke after that joke.
And she
Uh,
paid for it.
and she stayed for it. And she, for a better part of our dating, she often quoted and would tell people her favorite joke from the day we met, which was, I'm glad the crowbar was invented because now crows don't have to drink at home. Uh, and uh, and that came up because my friend Sam, who joined us, wanted to open his car door and needed a crowbar because he locked his keys
Mhm.
in, and that's how it kind of
That's funny.
set up.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, so it slowly started coming back, and now it's here to stay. But it's for me, it's a way um, I'm using it now as a way to um, process everything that happened through a different lens. Because for a long time, I was looking at through the lens of this happened to me and boo-hoo kind of a thing. But now, like I find a way. I'm finding a way to process. Oh, she passed away in April of last year. So now you're stuck rolling your eyes at me for her.
Well,
Boo-hoo.
I mean, it also feels like in some ways she connected us, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we didn't know her, so I don't, just to make that clear, but she struggled with anorexia.
yeah,
I write a lot about my own struggle, and I think that was a point of connection between us, right? Our histories are and our stories are very different, but that was always, a connector. And then I think there also underneath that is this shared sense of humor that, again, I didn't know her, but I feel like we share that somehow.
yeah. And I like she didn't directly die of anorexia, but I think it contributed. It was she ended up getting mono, then that turned into pneumonia, and because she was already so tiny, she didn't have enough to fight, and it's um, so yeah, and um, but one of the things that was uh, helpful between her and I was she was also hysterical, but
Yeah.
like she had this biting sense of humor, and I think most of the I don't remember going through a serious conversation and not laughing because
Hmm.
we would have those serious talks,
Yeah.
but we would laugh at the same time, and it
Right.
was a way for us to kind of like diffuse the situation, but
Yeah.
also say what we needed to say.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was right. There was not a lack of serious stuff between the two of you. You were emerging from an abusive relationship, right? Where it sounds like you kind of lost yourself and that piece of yourself that's so important.
Mm.
She obviously had her own struggles. And so, I mean, I think that is so true about humor is that sometimes it's part of what allows us to have harder conversations without sitting in all that heaviness. It sounds like that was just such a point of connection for the two of you.
Yeah, and I think now um, part of me, or actually a whole lot of me, is I've been sitting in the heavy for so long without a release valve
Mm-hmm.
that um, I'm tired of being in that space, right?
Yeah.
It's really draining.
Yes.
Um, so I don't know if you notice in the evolution of my writing, at least this year, because um, up until February, my writing was really dark
Yeah.
and heavy, um, and because I was like in that space all the time, my book is kind of that tone of heavy, and my essays were that heavy. Like it was looking at the heavy every day, right in my face,
Yeah.
like staring at a brick wall, and I kind of dipped again in terms of depression and things like that, and it wasn't until uh, Lynn, who's another writer on Substack, she kind of said, you're kind of a funny guy. Uh, why don't you write something funny? I challenge you to write something funny. Uh, because like in my essay, sometimes those jokes would pop up,
Yes.
uh, and she, so I wrote something funny,
Yeah.
and it was about the time I took my very conservative Turkish girlfriend to Barcelona, which
Okay.
was uh, which was interesting because it was kind of like very big culture shock for
Mhm.
her,
Yeah.
uh, especially at the at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and after that, I was like, why don't I just combine the two, humor and the heavy?
Yeah.
Um, because if I'm tired of in this space, I'm sure my readers are
Yeah.
kind of tired of that too.
Yeah.
Uh, and so and I found it very helpful to process where I'm kind of like processing it, but I'm also making fun of what I went through. And that's been helpful.
Well, and I think it's also a way of drawing other people in, right? I mean, I just think about when you went through a harder time this winter, right? We were by that point in touch pretty much daily. And I was very aware that I don't know if I was aware before or until after you started, sort of coming back to yourself. But I was at some point I was aware like you're not making jokes anymore, right? Like I get a lot of jokes from you
Yeah.
throughout throughout a week, and it like I could feel something shift because you weren't using humor in the same way. And it was clearly a shift, where you were struggling more. And you talk about this time when you were, in an abusive relationship and you kind of lost the humor. And so in some ways, maybe for you, that's an indicator light, that if you're struggling to find humor in things, that's an important thing to pay attention to. But I love that you kind of intentionally incorporated it into your writing because it may be not having the humor may be a sign of how much you're struggling, but also you can make a choice sometimes to pull that humor out, and that lifts you up even when things are hard.
Yeah, and I think it does have, I don't know about you, but I think it does have a way to look at a hard thing differently.
Hmm.
It's not like not in a way that minimizes what happened, because a loss of a family member is in a crash, that's some
Yeah.
heavy shit.
Yeah.
Um an abusive relationship, that's some heavy shit. Dealing with neurodivergent issues, be it autism or anorexia. That's heavy shit,
Yeah.
But like, so I think that there is a way to look at the heavy shit and find a way to bring levity into that,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of force your mind to look at it more holistically. Like, yes, it's a painful experience. Yeah, it sucked going through it. But what can I learn from this?
Yeah. And how can I
Um,
stay myself, right? Like not lose yourself in grief. And to be fair, I mean, like you described, when I've been in the thick of, you know, a loss or a struggle, uh, I'm not cracking jokes left and right, but and I'm certainly not cracking jokes about the thing that is so heavy. But I think being able to find humor in other places, at least for me in the darkest of times, has kept me grounded and reminded me like there's more to life than whatever is heavy in that moment.
yeah, and I think um, it's a different way to hold what you're carrying, right?
Mhm.
Um, because that isn't to say like, oh, like X bad thing happened to me. I gotta start looking for something funny now. No,
Right,
like,
right.
uh,
It's much more organic than that.
yeah, like, um, hold it, grieve it, process it, take your time.
Yeah.
But eventually, I hope one comes to a space where, like, after after the emergency has ended,
Mhm.
uh, to find a way to step outside that that moment and look for lessons and process it just slightly differently,
Yeah.
in a way that's going to be eventually more beneficial to you and your mental health, uh, um, than sitting in that heavy for extended period of time. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I don't
Agree with
think that.
every word you're saying. So
Uh,
I,
but I
I'm
think,
watching as you're talking. I have this split screen because I'm thinking about all of the time, not all of the times, but so many of the times I've used totally inappropriate humor in my family with my family members. We're all on the same page. Uh, you know, with my kids, I'm thinking about my oldest in particular, who, went to residential treatment, who is now doing great. But like, we laugh about so much of what was painful and a struggle from the other side of it. And I don't know that I would have named it this way, but I think you're exactly right that it's just a different way of processing what we've been through without it feeling so heavy and loaded. I mean, I think the tricky thing is you have to find people who are able to do that with you, because it can
right,
land right. I mean, I'm very careful about, I'm, I don't think I'm careful about how I use humor. I'm careful about who I who I connect with, that they too can use humor, because I can't live without it. Like I can't um, sit in serious for too long, which I know is a weird thing for a therapist to say.
hmm
I can do it. I can do it for 55-minute increments, but in my own life, I need that touch point always.
yeah, and it's kind of going back to the rules of comedy. It's like, know your audience, right? Um and the way I use humor, in my everyday life, it's different per person, right?
Mhm.
the same the same joke I would tell you may not necessarily land with my sister, or um, it's just because everyone has a different way of thinking and a different sense of humor. And even then, I often catch myself filtering myself. Uh,
Hmm.
Something that is hilarious in my head, I was could come across as offensive to someone else. And I filtered some jokes with you, and I
Yeah.
was like, I was gonna say this, and then
That's,
uh,
you're like a test bomb. Like,
yeah,
how's this one gonna land?
yeah, and then I remember filtering a Kobe Bryant joke uh, one time with you, and I was like, this is a completely different joke than what I wanted to tell you, and because I
Yeah.
think it was gonna be offensive, and
I do not
uh,
offend easily. I think that is part of my style. I wrote an essay a long time ago that I never published, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I have a number that I haven't published, but it was called "The Ick of Earnestness," and it was sort of about my own struggle with people who are very earnest, which is a lovely quality, but I just wrote a note last night about liking my friends, about wanting friends who are kind on the inside, but spicy, spicy on the outside. Like I like a little bite in my friendships and relationships, and not everybody is like that, and I absolutely get that. But for me, it's just essential. Um, doesn't have to be a lot, just a little.
I wonder what makes people so uptight sometimes and like not see the humor. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, you're a therapist. What's your hypothesis?
I'm not sure I have much insight to that because I think um, it's so hard to speak in generality about people. I think as a clinician, I'm trained to really understand the why, and it is always so individual. And it's what I love about the work I do is that every time someone new comes into my office, it's interesting, right? It's the goal is always to understand, why they're struggling with whatever they're coming in with. And usually if you really listen and have time to get to know someone, you can understand it, right? What kind of childhood they had, who their parents were, what environment they grew up in. But I'm always cautious about like speaking as a psychologist because we're all so different, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't know what it is that makes one person really struggle to enjoy humor. If you gave me one person and put them in my office, I would work really hard to figure it out. Because usually when you understand why, like you can find a genuine like place of empathy. Um, but when you're meeting someone on the street and they they're clearly offended by your humor, the goal isn't necessarily to understand why. It's to say, okay, like maybe we're not going to connect. That's not going to work out.
Yeah. I and for me, humor is interesting too. Um, uh, mainly mainly because I grew up overseas most of my life too.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm,
so humor is also very cultural. Um,
yeah.
and what's so the best way to understand my sense of humor is like it's very like British. Like it's
Okay.
very uh and because most of the countries that I lived in, that was the kind of sense of humor. It's like very dry, sarcastic, uh spicy.
Yeah.
And uh the lines are um the cultural lines of what's offensive is a lot further than here in the
Interesting.
States.
So
Um,
I belong in England.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so even the Australian sense of humor, the South African sense of, they're all so similar. Like,
Mhm.
um, just to illustrate like how far the lines are in terms of what's socially acceptable there. Like, I can't here in the States, I can't call someone the C word jokingly.
Yeah.
That four-letter C word. But in you know Australia, the UK, South Africa, it's no big deal. It's like every other like word is like, oh, you freaking C word, it's like,
Yeah.
that and that's and so
Just for the record,
uh
you could absolutely use that humor with me. But
and yeah, and so it's not that like I'm being careless or trying to be offensive or make
yeah.
anyone uncomfortable. It's just that, that's the sense of humor I'm used to. And then when I come to places like here, or it's like I really have to like dial it down and make it more slapstick.
Mhm.
Because that's what Americans like. They like the Three Stooges kind of humor. And
Yeah,
um,
it's so interesting because I've always been rooted in the States, and I mean, I've traveled, but I've traveled for vacation, not to live or be immersed in another culture. And so I don't have that experience at all, right? And I do feel like sometimes my humor is maybe more biting or than typical, but I've always found people who exist in that same way. Um, but I can only imagine sort of the effort of having to decode like the cultural response to humor. And then you have to go another layer because not everybody in the same culture is the same. So then you have to get to know. It makes me think about your testing me and saying like, hey, was that a couple of times? I think early on, not any like now you kind of know where my lines are, but you're saying, was that okay? Was that too far? And yeah, I think that clearly is because you've had to navigate that in a very complex way.
yeah, and um, just because I also speak uh, multiple other languages, uh, and I think it's also influenced by language, and it allows me to like think more creatively on the play on words, especially in English,
Mhm.
because there's so many words you can play on.
Yeah.
But even from a language standpoint, uh, like at least my dominant languages aren't English.
Mm.
But if I think about the jokes uh, that are often said in those languages, uh, they're so biting
Yeah.
that if those jokes were A, said in English, and then B, said at a coffee shop, uh, and people around us would think we hate each other,
Yeah.
and it's like not the case. We're just jesting and like
Yes.
uh, and it it's just so different, so interesting to think about, um, like even just adjusting humor to fit the culture too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think some of it, well, I don't do it to fit the culture, but I think I do it very automatically really without thinking about it to adjust who it is I'm talking to. But I think that's why it's part of why we get along when I'm with someone where it flows and I don't feel like I have to adjust. I can just say it, right? That's the connection point. And I don't think I can turn that off entirely. Like I think as I've gotten older, I'm much more comfortable with who I am and I edit myself less. But to some extent, editing yourself is part of relationships, and but there are certain people with whom, when you realize, wait, I'm not editing, I'm just loose, and it's easy and comfortable, and it flows in both directions. Those are people you want to keep close.
Deadpan is the word I was trying to think. My sense of humor is very deadpan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
I was
agree.
trying to find the word in English, and it's deadpan.
Well, when I was first getting to know you, I feel like you would, joking over text is different too. Like you throw something out. This still happens sometimes. And I don't think of myself as like dense, like I usually get jokes, but sometimes you throw something out and I'm like, is this going to be a joke? Or is this going to be a really serious conversation? I can't always. It happened yesterday, right? When you said I'm feeling really sad, and I was like, "Oh no, what's wrong?" And then you were talking about soccer,
Yeah.
So yes, I think you do deadpan very well. I sometimes it takes me a minute before I'm like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
Oh, Sam's here. I also text with her. We used to live near each other in Maryland. We didn't know each other then, but we, over time, we figured out we lived close to each other, and we frequent the same kind of places, which is fun.
Well,
But I think
she's a favorite Substacker of mine too. So
yesterday I told her one that kind of went, like I was complaining about feeling really bored, and she was like, "Why are you bored? You have a lot of interest." And then I told her, like, I thought I had mono for an entire year, and it turned out I was just really bored, and I kind of had to like sit in it. Yeah, but and I'm used to that, having to like
sometimes you got to explain.
yeah, like I have to like dial it back, and I don't know, but it's just interesting. Is like how do I adjust humor so that people get it,
Yeah.
because like I think my mind is in like 5 different directions at once, and I expect people to make those connections to find the joke funny, and I don't know how do you use humor in your writing, and how do you do that?
I definitely use humor in my writing, sometimes in heavier pieces, often in like, because I write about the heavy stuff, but I also write the way I write is that I notice what I'm feeling. And when I feel sort of a influx of feeling, whatever that is, hard, joy, sadness, grief, I write about it. And so I write on a wide variety of topics because of that. And so it just comes up naturally. Sometimes it comes up with the heavy stuff, but mostly it comes up in the in between stuff, right? Because humor absolutely makes me feel, right? Like it feels good to connect with somebody around something funny. So it's less intentional for me, and it's just when it's there, and I let it. I think in the beginning, when I was first writing, I felt like it was so heavy that there wasn't space for me to be funny. And then I wrote a post probably like within the first 20 days I was on Substack called "Damn It, I'm Funny," because I felt like I was like containing this part of myself that, with whatever hard stuff was going on, was very much an essential part of who I am and something I like about myself. So I think since then I've really like let it out, but really just when it comes up organically. I don't, there's nothing less funny than someone trying to be funny. So
How do you feel about misdirection? Like,
what do you
yeah,
mean?
like in terms of
Give me my
using
therapist words. Say more.
like using misdirection as humor mechanism. In a sense that, what's a good example? So I lived in Switzerland for a while,
Okay.
and I dated a Swiss girl,
Mhm.
and I had to. She took me to her village, and I had to break up with her after I got to her village because
Mhm.
there were too many red flags. Right. That's
Yeah,
kind of like misdirection.
got
Um,
it.
right. Um, and like, and I'm trying to be mindful of your time too, because you got a
Yeah,
tight.
yeah.
But
Um,
maybe we'll leave it at that question. But it's um, like, is that something you do in your writing? Kind of like use misdirection to make something funny, or um, like, or is that something that you believe in? Or
it is an interesting question, and I'm glad we're going to leave it there because I need to think about it. I don't think it's something I do in my writing, uh, but I'm trying to think about why that it's not intentional, right? I think, so often I just am writing what I'm feeling. And I do go back and edit, and I am intentional in editing, um, but I mean, as a device, I like it, and I've watched you do it quite a bit. So I'm not anti misdirection, but it isn't something that's really in my repertoire. And yes, thank you for paying attention to the time. I am rushing off, um, and I could keep talking to you for hours. So we'll just have to do this again.
I know. But you did talk to me for hours. Huh, no.
That's true. I do
Yeah.
cumulatively, for sure. And I'm just reading Sam's note about hoping to embrace her funny side. And I do think, uh, yeah, it's an interesting switch when you use humor in your life, trying to figure out how to get it into the writing is not always simple because it reads differently and it feels different. But um, yes, I will stop talking now.
Yeah, and then like sometimes something funny will come in my head when I'm already like ready to go to sleep. And then I was like, I have to write that down.
Yes.
But then I'm already comfortable, and then I have to find a way to convince myself that what I thought about isn't funny, so that I can go to sleep. Anyway,
Nighttime is hard. You know what? Maybe that's our next topic is nighttime thoughts because they're pretty funny. Um, but yeah, thank you for inviting me to do this, and it is lovely as always.
yeah, thanks for swinging by.
Yeah, and thanks everybody who's watching.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Till next time.